I'm one of the assistant directors here in the Center for Prevention and Outreach. And one part of my job is overseeing our substance abuse prevention work, as well as our recovery work on campus. And so that mostly includes our peer education team. So we have something called the Red Watch Band Care Team, which is a group of about 30 students who do outreach and programming on campus to educate the campus community, empower students to make healthy decisions when it comes to alcohol and drugs. The really cool part of my job and kind of like CPO's philosophy when it comes to substances is we actually don't preach abstinence. Although it would be really cool if nobody ever used alcohol or drugs and no one had any bad consequences, it's unrealistic, right, for the world. It's definitely unrealistic for college students. So we just try to have honest and open conversations with folks about alcohol and drugs and kind of challenge people to make healthier decisions if they're able to.
Okay, thank you. So, first question is going to come from me, and it is, how many people roughly each year die or are greatly affected by drug abuse and overdose?
So when we're talking about college students, the big number that stands out is 1,825 college students die every year from an alcohol specifically related overdose. So that's from the National Institute of Health.
Yes. So I will ask you a question that what makes teen more prone to drug abuse or like drug overdose?
Mm-hmm. So for teens, when it comes to drug use, drug abuse, drug overdoses, I think the initial reason why a lot of folks use is that peer pressure, right? So other people around us might be using. We think that you're supposed to use. I love asking this question to freshman college students or high school seniors. I'll be like, what percent of college students do you think like binge drink? And they'll tell me like anywhere from like 70 to like 100%. They're like, if you don't drink in college or you're not, binge drinking on the weekends, like you're not cool. And the actual number is 37%. So nationally, only 37% of college students actually binge drink. And if you think about it, if everybody was binge drinking, we wouldn't, because the school would crumble, right? If like every day there was just thousands of students walking around hammered drunk, we would start to like, people would start to miss classes, people would fail out of school, we'd have a lot of issues. So I think initial use is like a little mix of peer pressure, assuming that everyone around you is using, but then also there's things like genetics and other protective and risk factors that kind of play into somebody, especially a teenager, using.
What have you tried for those who needed the help that seems to work the best for them?
I think for people who are actually struggling with substance use disorder, the most helpful thing is listening, really like talking to them like a real human being, like talking to them like a friend. Don't talk to them like, that this is a moral failing. Don't talk to them as if you know everything. Being there and being a good listener has been the best thing I found. But also being aware of resources, right? So if you're going to ever initiate a conversation with somebody and let them know like, hey, I'm a little worried about your substance use, go prepared, right? Like have the resources, the local resources, whether that's on campus or off campus resources, have them like physically there with you or like saved on your phone or something. So if you address the situation and the person is like, hey, you know what, I think I need help, you can right away give them the resources and get them the help. I think that's the best way to talk about somebody or to help somebody who's struggling with a substance use disorder.
I'll ask my questions. You might have already answered these a little, but I'll just say them anyways. I have friends who have personally like gone through rehab for using a lot of substance, and they come out better initially, but eventually they like return to their old habits. It's mainly because they surround themselves with the people that got them into drugs in the first place. And I was just wondering if like there was anything I could do personally, even though they like claim that they can control themselves and that they're fine in reality when they're not.
Yeah. So when it comes to substance use disorders or addiction, that we say people, places, and things, right? So there are people, places, and things we associate with our drug use. And so even if we go into treatment, we go into rehab, we get clean, when we come out, if we are around those people, places, and things again, we're most likely going to get triggered, which kind of sounds like what you're talking about, right? Like your friends, they're doing better, and then something happens. Recovery is, so recovery is like when someone decides to get clean, they're living a sober lifestyle. Recovery is a lifetime commitment, right? This isn't like when you tear your ACL and so you have to do PT for like 6 months and you got to take it easy but then like you're fine. Like recovery is a constant thing. Like this is a chronic illness that we have to keep addressing. As the friend, it sucks. Like it always sucks when it's like, okay, I'm like watching this unfold in front of me and like I can't necessarily like force the person to do anything. If you So I'm going to say two things, and this is not me making any assumptions about you. If your friends went to rehab, they got clean, they were really doing great, and now they're starting to use again. If you're using with them, right, that's definitely one of the problems. You should probably try not to be around them, which sounds kind of crummy because I don't want you to lose your friends. But like if you're using with them, then like you're jeopardizing their recovery, right? That's not fair. What I have a feeling is you're probably not the person who uses with them. So expressing that like, hey, I noticed like you're starting to slip a little, or like, hey, I don't know kind of, if this is the right thing. Expressing that when you can is really important. And like, I see this happen all the time where people will be like, oh, well, like, I know they want to start using, so I'm going to like force them to hang out with me more so that they won't use. In the end, that doesn't do anything. That's actually like not really helpful because you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting them up for kind of failure. It's almost taking on this role of being like a babysitter or a parent for them. If you're like close with their other friends, like it's totally fine as like a group to be like, hey, we're noticing this. Like that might kind of make the person see a little bit more that like, okay, it's not just this one person saying like, hey, something's going on. But if the rest of the group also doesn't use with this person and you're all noticing it, totally fine to like kind of reach out. Depending on your relationship too with like their family members, like if their family members were really involved in their recovery process, and if you feel comfortable enough to talk to them about what you're noticing, that's good too. Of course, as like especially if they're like one of your best friends, you can kind of judge that, right? Like if you know that they have a crummy relationship with their parents and like you talking to them about it would just like make their life harder. Obviously you wouldn't do that. But if like, they're close with their parents, but you kind of want to let them know, that's all.
How many people roughly die per year of drug abuse/overdose?
Maybe 15,000.
Okay, and what drug do people overdose/overuse on the most frequently?
Alcohol?
Thank you. How many people do you think roughly die per year of drug abuse/overdose?
50,000.
What drug do people overuse or overdose on the most frequently?
Alcohol.
Okay, thank you.
Hey,
Hey,
can I ask you a question?
yeah, sure.
So it's related to drugs, and my first question is how many people die each year from drug overdose?
I think it's probably more than 60,000.
Yeah, in 2018, there are roughly around 67,000 drug overdose deaths occurred in the United States. So my second question is, what drug do you think people overdose on most often?
I heard about a opioid.
Yeah, you are correct. Opioids are currently the main driver of drug overdose deaths in the United States.
How many people each year do you think die from drug abuse?
10,000.
And my second question is, what do you think the most common drug used is?
Caffeine.